Welcome to the Rittner Floral School in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. We've got a neat demonstration planned for you, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. I know I say that on every demonstration, but I mean it. I think you will. Today's design is going to be a fall one. We're going to do something very specific for the fall, and I think you're going to enjoy the process of doing it. Notice on any kind of design, we generally start with the container, and we have here a very, very pretty piece of glassware. It's pretty. It gives definitely the fall kind of motif between the orange and the brown. Of course, you can use any kind of container for this, but this is a good one to start with on this. And we're going to definitely make use of some interesting fall materials. We're going to start off with antique green hydrangea. These are amazing. These are available courtesy of the folks of blooming of Beloit, Wisconsin. They are a very, very neat hydrangea. Hydrangea, as you realize, is a very chi-chi frou-frou flower at the present time. Everybody loves it. Everybody enjoys it. I particularly like this variety because it has green in it, but it also has kind of lavender pinky aspects to it as well. And it tends to dry well, unlike many other varieties. It's available in the fall. It is absolutely amazing stuff to work with, and we love using this particular product here at Rittner's Floral School at this time of the year. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my antique green hydrangea, and I'm going to lightly cover my base. In other words, rather than working with my foliages on this, I'm actually using my antique green hydrangea as a means of covering my mechanics before I even add a flower to it. It gives a very, very cool effect. I think you guys will find it's an interesting way to start, and that's the whole idea. We're trying to give you guys interesting ways of looking at your designing and coming up with some cool effects. Now, we also want to not only use it in close, but I'm also going to take a little bit of my hydrangea and work it out over onto this side so that we're coming up with something that is extending out a little bit as well. So notice that I'm taking this, placing it. This is going to be essentially a one-sided piece, but I think you're going to find it's an interesting one, and I think you're going to enjoy the process of doing it. So we've started with a little bit of our antique green hydrangea. We still have space here. If you look carefully in between, there's plenty of space that we can put additional things into it. And we're going to mix this with some other things that I think you're going to find kind of fun and funky. This is another product that is available from blooming of Beloit in the fall. It is a very cool product. It is orange Ilex, the berries, amazing. Berries have become very, very popular in floral designing, and we can get them now pretty much throughout the year. Different varieties, of course. The orange Ilex is very good at this time of the year. We get the red Ilex, especially as we go into the fall and winter. We have hypericum berries throughout the year. Certain times we can get viburnum berries to work. I say berries really add a lot to our designing, and they make our designing really, really cool. And although the foliage sometimes will dry, I would use it even with drying foliage because you can get a very, very neat effect on this stuff because it looks just so interesting and very, very neat. And so we're going to work some of our buried materials into this. And I'm going to take some of it and I'm going to work some over onto this side, over here. I'm going to work some over here. In other words, I'm going to pepper my design using some of these very, very neat buried products. And notice how it gives a very, very natural kind of effect to our design. It feels like fall, and that's the whole idea behind it. Now, I could have kept this asymmetrical, but I'm going to make it a little bit more of a symmetrical piece. In other words, we're going to have a piece of this coming out onto this side. In other words, we could have made it extended over onto one side, but we'll keep it a little bit more symmetrical by adding some of these things in. Not only can I use these in terms of the extremities of the design, but also by cutting it down into smaller pieces, we can incorporate some of our orange berries into the middle of the design as well. Now, essentially, we could cover a little more on our mechanics and stop at this point. But wait, there's more. Let's play with it a little bit more. And there's some such great materials at this time of the year that we can work with. We just can't help ourselves. One item that I love that's available right now are our marigolds. Our marigolds. They are so cool. And we're getting them in, again, courtesy of blooming of Beloit. These are just amazing. They come in yellow. They also come in other colors, as I'm sure you're aware, like the orange. and we thought it would be kind of fun and funky to work in some of our marigolds. In other words, when we're talking about fall type colors and fall type materials, we really can play with this. And one of my joys in being in this field is the ability to play with different kinds of botanicals throughout the year and enjoy just the cornucopia of different things that are available to us to work with through the year. So you notice that with a few of our marigolds, this is bulking it up, it's making it interesting, and I can add here and there, peppering it through my design to come up with really a very, very cool effect. This is not what you would consider to be traditional. We're playing with this a little bit and coming up with, I think, a very, very interesting approach on it. So by mixing our orange Ilex berries, our hydrangea, our marigolds, it really comes out to be kind of fun and funky. Once again, I could stop at this point if I wanted to. But wait, there's more! Let's add another product. This is a kind of cool thing. These are actually in the milkweed family. They're called balloon plant. Sometimes they're called bishop's balls. Let's take a few of these and just work them in for fun, because they're ornamental, they're interesting, they're a little bit different, and again, they add another dimension to our designing that otherwise would not be there, and I think that's kind of interesting. Of course, to me, fall also is a great opportunity to feature one of my favorite flowers, which are the sunflower. Of course, my students will all tease me and say, Dr. Steve, every flower is your favorite flower. But to me, the sunflowers are just so wonderful. They're cool. They are a very, very pretty flower. They're a very optimistic flower, because when you look at a sunflower, you just can't help but feel happy. They are a flower that really has come on its own and been around for a long, long time, but people love them because they are showy, they are pretty, and certainly they will add a lot to your designing. And I'm just going to work another one over here, tucking this one in like so, and we've got a very, very pretty design. Now, we could stop at this point if we wanted to. I do want to add just another little touch of something to it. We have some safflowers that are available. These are very, very cool. So just to come up with a little bit of contrast in shape, notice that we're playing with contrasts here. We work in the hydrangea, one kind of feel. We work in the marigolds, another kind. We play with our berried products, another kind. The safflower, another. We're staying kind of within a fall theme in terms of yellows and oranges, but make no mistake about it, folks. We're playing with this, but at the same token, we're contrasting our kinds of materials to come up with a really, really interesting effect. What do you think, my viewer? It's pretty, isn't it? It's different. It's unusual. Gives a very, very pretty aspect in terms of fall. This could work on a sideboard. It could work on a mantle. I want to show you one other aspect, my viewer, before we stop, because I think you might find it kind of interesting. This design is very, very pretty in and of itself. I have made it one-sided, although we could do it as a two-sided piece. But I want to show you something that I think you may find kind of interesting, and just to give you some thought. We're showing this as a one-sided piece, and we're doing that on a fairly low container. However, there are things that we could do to change the design, and I want you to consider this when you're experimenting with your flowers as well. This is definitely a very, very pretty container. It's taller, definitely has the fall colors in it. What if we were to take something like this, and instead of doing it low, I'm going to cheat a little bit by taking a container and then moving this from one to another. What if we were to make something like this on a taller container? Okay, now obviously I might make a few modifications, like maybe cover that so that you don't see it. So notice we can take it from one aspect and play with it on another aspect. It gives a very, very different feel. Which do you like better? Well, that's for you to decide as the designer. In other words, when you're playing with these things, you can do them lower, you can do them higher, but this is a good example of what I tell my students when we start with containers. The choice of container can also impact in terms of where our design is going. So what do you think, my viewer? Quick, easy, and fun. That's the Rittner Floral School way. with a combination of a few interesting things, we can come up with some very, very cool looks. We want to thank the folks at Blooming Abelloid who provided some of the great botanicals that we played with, the marigolds, the hydrangea, and the orange ilex. These are wonderful to play with and certainly help us in our fall designing. On behalf of all of us here at Rittners Floral School, we want to thank you for coming in to visit our school today. I am Dr. Steve Rittner. Thank you for visiting Rittner Floral School in Boston, Mass.